Hey guys, on today's show, I'm going to teach you how to make your very own chili.
Mouth-watering family recipes, easy-to-make meals, humor, and faith fill the inspiring show Dano on the Counter. Born with only half a spine, Dano Burkhardt was never supposed to be able to hold his head up. Despite countless surgeries, a stroke, leg amputations, and kidney transplants, Dano developed a contagious love for life. Join Dano as he shares his easy-to-make dishes and the hope that keeps him pushing forward.
For the homemade chili, this is what you're going to need. 3 celery stalks, 1 green pepper, 1 white onion, 5 jalapenos, 1 to 1.5 pounds of ground beef, 2 10-ounce New York strip steaks, 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, 1 28-ounce can of tomato sauce, 2 cups of beef broth, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of cumin, and 3 to 4 tablespoons of chili powder. Hey guys, what's up? Headed to the grocery store. Nice freezing cold day today. Nice little fresh snow we got last night. All right. All right, guys, let's go. To always wear your seatbelt. Living up here in central Pennsylvania, I'm fortunate to live out in the sticks out here, and it started out as our family like summer home that I used to come up here on vacation with my family and stuff like that as a kid, and we would build lean-tos and forts and things like that out in the woods, and shoot guns and hunt and things like that. And then when my brother and I decided to go to college, of course we decided to come up here to go to school at Penn State, and we came up here to live up north permanently. And but yeah, living out here is nice. It's a beautiful area to be in. I don't really have any neighbors, and my neighbor is my grandmother, so that's really nice. And we can shoot guns off the back porch, and we can go four-wheeling like I always like to do. Ever since I was little, been on a four-wheeler, and it really gives me my independence as well, being out in the woods by myself and being able to drive something, you know. A lot of kids, you know, had go-karts and things like that, or bicycles. I had some of that stuff as well, but to have something motorized, to be able to get around in the woods is always been awesome, and really gives me my independence around the house. So yeah, I use that around the property, and then living out there, of course, we're in charge of doing our own snow and all that stuff. So my dad's real busy with all that, keeping up with the roads and maintaining all that as well. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's great. It's a great experience, and it's awesome to be up here, up in the Northeast. So today we're gonna cook our one of our favorite meals, especially during the winters. We're gonna cook our homemade chili. So to start things off, we're gonna grab our chili. We're gonna grab our chili. We're gonna grab our cheese for on top. Since we're in that section, that's what we'll start today. All right, so we got our sharp cheddar cheese to go on top. We'll take this home and put it on our chili. And like Marty's hanging out. Is there more than one of these things in the store? Seems like we always run into this thing. So when I cook my chili, I always cook like a Texas style. I don't put beans in it. Growing up, my dad always threw a bunch of beans in it. I'm not a huge fan of that. So we're just gonna cook our chili with a bunch of ground meat, and then we're gonna cook some New York strip steaks and throw that in there as well. So we'll start with our ground beef. We'll grab a 1.5 pound of 80/20. So to go in our chili, we'll also need just a couple of New York strips. Doesn't really matter too much of the marbling like that because we're just gonna cube it up, fry it in the skillet, throw it in the chili. So don't get too particular with steak. Don't go crazy and spend a bunch of money on it. Yeah, so the seasonings for the chili are gonna be your cayenne pepper, your chili powder, your cumin, garlic as well. Most people have that at home already. If you don't, find it right in the spice aisle. But I have all that stuff at home, so we're good to go. We're just gonna grab our vegetables for our chili: green pepper, onion, celery, and some jalapenos. So here we are at the grocery store, and it's unbelievable how many things they're out of. We've been fortunate to find what we need today, but the shelves are really kind of bare. I don't know if it's a supply chain, people just can't get the stuff out, or if it's the trucking industry is just way behind or what, but it's kind of crazy. We're gonna use some celery. You're gonna need about 3 stalks of celery to go in it, chopped up. All right, so the recipe just calls for 1 green pepper. But I mean, obviously, if you're making a huge pot, my dad always when he makes his chili, he starts real small, but ends up with like this huge pot of it. And we have to eat it for like an entire week. But for today, we're just gonna make a little bit just to make for tonight. So just 1 green pepper, we should do it. We're gonna need some jalapenos as well. Now this comes up to personal preference on how hot you want your chili. Now, I like mine pretty hot, so I'm gonna grab about 5 jalapenos and I'm gonna dice them up and to put in there. You can leave them out, obviously, if you think they're too hot for you, or if you want to go with habanero or something like that. Hey, it's all up to you. You can do whatever you want. So we'll grab an onion and we'll cut this up and dice it, throw it in with our celery and our green peppers and our jalapenos. Yeah, so I mean, like, you wonder how many steps you took when you're out shopping, and but they need like a pedometer that measures how many miles you wheeled. It's got to be a couple of miles just in the grocery store going back and forth, because you always end up forgetting something, having to run to the other end and grabbing it. So definitely got to work out shopping today.
Hi, my name is Dad Dick.
And I'm Aiden. We're the 5th generation of Dick's Home Care.
And our family is here for your health.
If you're considering a lift chair, call or stop in and see us at Dick's Home Care. Our chairs come in a wide variety of fabrics and finishes. We even have chairs that are able to be closer to your wall in case you have a small space.
Dick's Home Care, Central Pennsylvania's leader in mobility products.
Impact Productions, a multi-layer technology company providing on-site, online, and in-studio video services. Contact Impact Productions to capture your story.
All right, welcome back in the kitchen, guys. And today we're gonna cook some chili. So we're gonna use my own recipe. A little bit of spin from my dad's recipe that he always uses, and a couple little changes that I personally like better. I like mine a little bit spicier than normal, and I'm not a big fan of the beans in it. So we're gonna eliminate the beans and make more of like a Texas style chili today. So being a Texas style chili, we're gonna of course have a lot of meat in it. So we picked up those New York strip steaks, and don't write me or anything like that about this, but we're gonna just cut up this steak, and we're just gonna brown it a little bit to put in our chili. So you want to make small little bite-sized pieces with this steak. Number one is you don't want somebody chewing on a big old piece of steak when they're eating their chili, but also it helps it so it's nice and tender when it cooks, because we're gonna cook this for a couple hours and let it simmer. But you can also, of course, put this in a crock pot and let it cook overnight on low, or take it with you to work and let it cook if you want to share it with people in the office or what have you. So we got some strip here, and we're just gonna cut this up. And you don't want that hard piece of fat off the back. You don't want that. So eliminate that. And there's always that middle piece of gristle in the middle there, that little piece of fatty tissue. You want to cut that out as well. You don't want somebody chewing in their chili and then all of a sudden get this big chunk of fat. So, just little pieces. And this will only take a couple minutes here. All right, so we got our steak cut up here. Now we're just gonna brown it. So we're gonna take our chili pot. We always start with a small pot. Probably gonna end up with a bigger pot by the time it's all said and done. But we're just gonna add just a couple tablespoons of oil in there. And we're gonna brown our meat. Get that going. Start with our New York strip. So it's going to take a little longer than our ground beef. Throw that in there. Get this browning. Chili is one of those meals I think everybody enjoys, especially on a cold day. You know, middle of winter. You throw it in the crock pot, like I said. Several different ways to eat it as well. You can always have it on, I like it on macaroni. A lot of people put it on mashed potatoes. Some people put it on rice. Whatever your personal preference is, it's pretty versatile. But I really like it. And it's one of the few things, I know we talked about leftovers before, that I'll actually eat leftover is chili. Chili and spaghetti sauce are pretty much the only two things that I eat leftover. So this will take a couple minutes just to brown this up. Once it's good and brown, you don't want to overcook it. Obviously, don't make it tough, but since you're going to simmer it for so long, it'll almost like fall apart once it gets in the crock pot for a while. It simmers in that sauce. So I got a pretty good start on that. I'm gonna go ahead and add our ground beef. It's like a pound and a half of ground beef. Add that in there. I'm just gonna break this up. And brown it until it's fully cooked. One thing about being on the counter is obviously you get that extra leverage. It's a lot better than being on the ground and trying to look into a pot you can't see into. And you can use any kind of steak in here. If you want to get fancy and put some filet in there, you can. If you want to use a stew meat, you can do that as well, or a chuck roast. Like I said, it's whatever you feel like, whatever your preference is. And then when this is brown, we're going to drain off the grease. And then we're going to throw in our vegetables and saute those. All right, so now we're going to finish up our chili here. We're going to go ahead and saute our vegetables. And we're going to start with a little olive oil. And we're going to start with some garlic. About a tablespoon of garlic in there. Turn this baby on. Get that going. Smell that garlic, it's pretty strong. Then we're gonna add, we got some celery here, about 3 stalks of celery. We got one white onion. Then a green pepper. And then we're just gonna cook these up until they're pretty much translucent. And then we're gonna combine it with our meat, and then we'll add our seasoning. So we'll go ahead and cook this. They don't have to be all the way cooked when you're doing a chili, because it's gonna cook. They're gonna cook in the pot with the meat itself, so you just want to kind of get them started here. Seems like whenever we make chili here at the house, I don't know about you guys, but it always ends up being a week-long meal, you know. Eat this stuff for a week. But on a cold day like today, it'd be good to have. This is one of my favorite combinations. I remember cooking celery and onions for Thanksgiving. Always smells so good. And of course with that garlic in there as well. You guys want to tell me what your favorite chili recipe is? Maybe there's something that you guys do differently, something I should do differently. Don't be afraid to reach out, let me know. Once those onions start to be a little translucent, you can start adding your seasonings then. In our seasoning, of course, you're going to use chili powder. Now, I like a lot of chili powder, so this is about 4 tablespoons of chili powder. We're going to add some cumin, just a tablespoon of that. And then cayenne pepper. Now this is, you can put as little or as much of this in there you want. I'm going to start with a tablespoon, and then you can always add more later on. You can't take it out once you put it in, so start off small, and then you can add some later. And then we're going to add, once this gets going here, just kind of mix it up. Make sure it all gets covered here, coated. And then we're going to add our wet ingredients and add this back to our meat mixture. When you do cook the spices, it really brings out the aromas, brings out that flavor when you heat them up. So I always like to cook them on the stove a little bit before I put them in the wet ingredients. That way it really gets the flavor out of them. And then we're just going to add this back to our chili pot. I'm just going to swap these here. Add our vegetables and our seasonings in here with our meat. Set that aside. I don't like to saute these, but I do like to add them in as the jalapenos. Sometimes when you cook them, it can make the kitchen, get that jalapeno pepper gas or whatever you call it that comes off of it. So we don't like to cook them per se, but we can just put a little bit in at this time. I've got about 5 jalapenos here. I'm going to put probably about 3 jalapenos worth in there to start. Like I said, you guys can adjust it however you want, how hot you want it. And once this is good and mixed up, we're going to add our wet ingredients. All right, so we got our meat mixture and our vegetables done here. Now we're just going to add our wet ingredients. We have our beef broth. And we're going to add, we'll start off with half there. So we have a better than bouillon there we mixed together with some warm water. You can use beef broth if you want. This just has more of a beefy flavor to it. And the actual bouillon powder's really high in sodium, like this stuff is as well, but you just want to I always watch that sodium content. So that's why kind of lay off the powdered stuff. So we got our wet broth in there. Just gonna bring this up to a nice simmer. Then we're gonna add our tomato sauce. And then our diced tomatoes. And here we're just I'm gonna add just the tomato part. I don't need as much the juice. You could even drain these if you wanted to, but it all depends on what your preferences. Do you want it more soupy or do you want it more thick? I like a thick chili, but it's gonna cook down as well as you let it simmer for a while. And then we're just gonna mix this all together, and then we're gonna let it come up almost to a boil, and then we're gonna let it simmer for a few hours. And we're gonna let it really thicken up. And if you want to, you can add more seasonings if you want, a little more chili powder. And then you're gonna taste it every hour or so, maybe, if you want, and see what it needs and adjust it to however hot you want it, or or if it needs more tomato to mellow it out a little bit, you can add a little bit of tomato sauce to it. If it's too runny, too thick, you can add a little water to it, more beef broth, thin it out. We'll bring this up to a boil, and then we'll let it simmer for, like I said, a few hours at least. And if you want to put it in a crock pot and let it cook on low overnight, you can do that as well. And then it'll be ready to go. Let it simmer pretty much all day, and I'm gonna tell you, even the next day, it's even better once it's sat and cooked. So that's our chili. So we're gonna head over to the studio, and we'll have an encouraging word for you today.
Made by Vogel is a father and son business that produces high-quality handmade wooden products such as cutting boards, bowls, bottle stoppers, and more. Products for sale can be found on their Etsy site or in downtown Altoona at the Clay Cup. You can't go wrong buying from Made by Vogel.
Hi, my name is Dad Dick,
And I'm Aiden. We're the 5th generation of Dick's Home Care.
and our family is here for your health.
If you're looking for a stair lift, I would definitely recommend Bruno stair lifts. The reason people get Bruno stair lifts from Dick's Home Care is it keeps them in the home that they love. We also have a rental program on the stair lifts. My customers coming back to me saying, I'm so glad I bought this.
Dick's Home Care, Central Pennsylvania's leader in mobility products.
Last week I shared with you the story of my house fire, but when I was 9 years old. This week I'm going to expand on that story and tell you how that has impacted my life. So I get to the ambulance and they get me checked out and everything. They find out that everything's fine, I'm doing okay. And then the newspaper articles come out, the newspaper reporters come and the TV stations come there, and they do a story on it, of course, for the news, because it was pretty dramatic. Of course, there's a guy without legs escaping this fire. About 6 months later after that, I was contacted by an author, actually, and the author came up with an idea to write a children's book about that fire. And because it gained some publicity because of the incident that I was in, she thought it would be a good story to talk about how, courage that I had to get through it, and to also help talk about fire safety and things like that. So they wrote a children's book, and the book actually came out like a year later. And the book is called Help Fire. It was written by Doris Sanford and illustrated by Gracie Evans. After this book was written, I really got a lot of opportunities to go and share my story with a lot of different groups of people, starting with elementary schools, going there and sharing my story with little kids about fire safety and how to escape a fire, obviously call 911 and things like that. But also I got to share my whole life story. The book begins with me talking about how I lost my legs and things like that. It talks about kids with disabilities, and it opened many doors for me to tell my story. Not even just about the fire, but also about how I lost my legs and kids with disabilities and how they should be treated equally and things like that. I remember sharing this story at a elementary school one time, and I had a little kid come up to me and share with me about their brother and how he was disabled and some of the tough times that he had gone through being a big brother of somebody in a wheelchair, and things like that. And they could really relate, and I could relate to their story, obviously having two older brothers, and some of the stories and things that I've been through. And this young kid was able to open up and tell me some of the things that they've been through as well. And it was pretty neat. So the book was written a year later, and It was fully illustrated. There's a lot of really cool illustrations in here. The one that I find is the funniest one out of them all is this one, and the last one. Now this one I think is hilarious, and my friends, let me tell you, in college, they would just randomly, whenever they would see this book somewhere, or somebody had it at their house, they would send me this photo. And they're like, hey Dano, don't forget, we have this photo of you, you know. And randomly I would get it still to this day. People will send it to me, you know. I think it's hilarious, but yeah, that's been a really cool thing that a lot of people have enjoyed the book and have learned a lot from the story. And it was really the first opportunity that I had to, as a young kid, I mean, I was 10 years old when the book came out, that I really got to start sharing my story with different groups. And I think that's what really led up to where I am today, and being able to share my story pretty much wherever I go, and many doors being open for me to share. Hey guys, that's where we're going to end the story, and we're going to head over to the kitchen and check on our chili. Thanks so much for joining us here. We got our chili made. We're going to dive into there and check it out, see how hot it is, and see if these guys can handle it. And let's dive in, guys, see how it is.
Good. Oh, I like it.
It's really good.
Steak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good kick. It's good chili.
Yeah. Very good.
Good flavor.
Good mix of textures with the crunchy veggies and whatnot in there too.
Let's see if I can get my wife to make this.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And we'll catch you guys next week. If you have questions or comments about the show or topics you would like me to speak about, please reach out to me, Dano at danoburkhart.com. And also check out the website, danoburkhart.com, for all the previous episodes.
Dick's Home Care can help you stay mobile. Dick's offers a full line of scooters to help with mobility both inside and outside your home. Take your scooter with you wherever you go with a scooter lift from Dick's. They are available for most vehicles. If standing or sitting is becoming difficult, a lift chair from Dick's will make life easier. There are many styles and sizes to choose from. And Dick's honors warranties and service on what we sell. Dick's Home Care, Central Pennsylvania's leader in mobility products.
Hi, my name is Dad Dick.
And I'm Aiden. We're the 5th generation of Dick's Home Care.
And our family is here for your health.
Purify 03 is the simple, effective way to clean your CPAP or BiPAP. It provides hospital-grade sanitation, killing 99.99% of bacteria and germs with the touch of a button. Everything you need comes in one affordable kit for just $1.90. It's available exclusively at Dick's Home Care, Central Pennsylvania's leader in home medical equipment.